morning to all. My name is Subhash Rao. My name is Subhash Rao. I'm Associate Director at Digital Age. I have an industry experience of around 30 years, and especially in the IT and IT security area, it's more than 18 years. Previous to this security area coming into, I was heading an R&D department at Saskin Communication. The domain expertise, I mean, the why I came into this particular area is because in any product development, you need to have experience. So I have experience starting from hardware, software, testing them, and project management and auditing them. So it gives you a kind of a complete picture so that your view on any perspective of audit what you are doing, it will be much better. So that's why I shifted to a complete this domain. And over a period of the journey, whatever certifications required for that, I kept on acquiring, and this is the certifications what I have. It will come. Okay. So today's topic, I'll be covering these areas: web trust and a browser forum, type of certificates, what you can get in web trust. And the obvious question for most of the CAs and even CCA will be, how do we implement this web trust? And how do we audit it? Because it's currently we are the only one auditor, and then there will be some questions on how the audit can be done. So auditors for web trust, and what are the auditing criteria we look into, and the changes required as a previous speaker talked about. So there are some changes required. There is existing setup or approach. So these are the topics which I will be covering today. So we talked about trusted certificate and all. So most of the time as an auditor, we look human being is a key area in any security. So basically human being, we identify by face. We identify by voice, we identify by, I mean now digitally numbered, so we have numbered them. We identify by biometric. This is how initial our thumbprints were taken, now the same thing is implemented. We identify by iris, by face recognition and other things. So we also identify human being as highly intellectual and creative. We identify the downside of it, emotionally weak and exploitable. Now if you look at these two, the last two ones, the creative and exploitable are the one which is creating the issue in the market. We don't trust anyone because somebody can creatively fool somebody. So that's a whole problem. So that's what we come across with a trusted certificate. This is where we need to make sure whatever we issue are trusted, because creative mind can create and fool somebody else. So that's what we are looking at as a creative. So when you come to a trusted signature or a certificate, there are different type of certificates are available. It's a digital signature. What is one currently we are doing? A trusted website. This is another one. You have a communication. It's coming in trusted communication where SSLs and all we talk about. We have a trusted document. It's a document signer, what we talk about, or a code signing, what we are looking into. There are trusted organizations, because a lot of sites what we have are phishing sites. So how do we trust that site is correct or no? That's where the trusted site is coming. Logo is another one where we're talking about the people copy the things, the copyright, all those things are coming. So these all need to be trusted. Now for India, we have CCA is managing this trust certificates. So, but if you want to reach out globally, then we need to look at somebody else. So currently, worldwide, Web Trust is managing that trust certificate. So that's why we are looking into going beyond from India. When we look worldwide, we need to look into Web Trust. So that's why Web Trust is coming into picture, and that's why we are worried about how do we get into Web Trust. So if you look at worldwide coverage of a web trust, so this is how we see most of the countries are covered by web trust. So we are looking into getting India also into that. Yeah, that's what we are aiming at. So web trust. So now what is web trust it's all about. We are talking about web trust many places. So let's look into what is web trust. Please. Yeah. So it's basically a certification authority. Program was developed to increase consumer confidence in the internet and vehicle conducting e-commerce. Basically, for the e-commerce purpose, it was created. It increases the confidentiality of application of PKI technology, and it's a standard set to principle designed to follow internet information security. This is basically about the trust creation, what web trust is giving. By implementing web trust users, CA service can rest assured that their transactions are protected by significant rules. I mean, stringent rules basically. Now, who creates this web trust is basically a CPA, a Chartered Professional Accounts Canada, and APAC, which is giving this. They reviews basically verifies the websites, ensures the customer transactions are properly completed and billed. So this is where we are talking about the billing, the financial aspect which CCA is trying to bring in. So this is what is the web trust is also doing. So this is what the changes what we need to bring in our existing criteria, because the billing also need to be considered, because a lot of fraudulent activities can happen there also. Okay. Now basically web trust is based on principles and criteria. So they have certain principles, as the previous speaker talked about. There are 3 principles they have defined for each of these. So we'll be auditing, as this is basis for any practitioner to conduct the engagement, issuance and management of a trust certificate. So it can be used to control the framework, to assess the adequacy of the CA system, policies and procedure. The auditing also, if you look at, there are 2 type of auditing can be done. One is attestation audit and assurance audit. Attestation is somebody else does it and then we attest that it is fine. Or you engage with the web trust auditor, then they give assurance audit. So that will be considered that the auditor has already seen that criteria and he has certified. He is basically making a opinion based on that. So for this can be used for internal audit as well as for the independent external auditor. The same checklist can be used. So this is what the commonness they are bringing in. So the same checklist can be used for both the parties. Now the CA Browser Forum, again, it is again a voluntary group of certification authorities. It includes vendors of internal browser softwares, suppliers of the digital certificates for SSL TLS, code signing, and SMIME, the other parts. So these are the basically browser forums. So when we look at the web trust, we look at web trust as well as the browser forum together, because most of the criteria are common in nature. So they also recommend you need to do a simultaneous audit of this. So you don't need to do a separate audit for browser and separate audit for web trust. You can do a common audit. The primary goal of this CAF forum is basically to baseline requirement and a network requirement. So enable efficient and secure electronic communication. This is what they are looking at. Addressing the user concerns about the trustworthiness of the certificates. Now when we look at web trust, there are certain certificates you can get. It's not only the one. So you can get a web trust for the CAs. You can get a web trust for SSL certificates alone. So you can get a web trust for extended validation. So what is this extended validation, if you ask? It's basically there are high value customers whose certificates can be, I mean, you need to protect them. So you need to put some additional measurement criteria to ensure that the certificate is not forged. Then you have a code signing. So these are like you develop a code and then you want to protect that entire code. This code signing certificates are coming into picture. And then you have a verified mark certificate. So these are different certificates what you can get. Most of the time we have a confusion whether web trust is only for SSL. No, it need not be. Web trust has different criteria. These are the seals what you can put on your website. Once you are audited, you are approved, you will get a seal. So these seals can be put on your web portal. So this is what the thing. So now if you look at web SSL based baseline requirement, so in 2019 itself they started this baseline requirement. I think these baseline requirements already in our CA developed checklist, it's already some of them are covered. So we don't need to worry too much saying that no, what is this, we don't know, it's all new. No, it's not that way. Some of the baseline requirements are already taken care. So that means once you get audited for web trust, so probably you have a good chance to meet most of the requirements. There are some gaps here and there which we talk about, but it's not that difficult. It's not easy also, but it's not difficult. That's what I can assure you. The web trust principle criteria are basically designed in conjugation with the assurance engagement of a CA requirement by a browser forum. That's what you do, both the audits together. This is what they themselves say. You don't need to do it separately. Okay. Due to significant overlap, this is what the reason. The engagement should be conducted simultaneously with the web trust and CA engagement. Now, different type of certificates, what we saw in the seals, what you can see.
भी चार्ज हो सकता है ना बट यूएसबी टू यूएसबी चाहिए ना ऐसे केबल कहाँ मिलेगा ढूंढना पड़ेगा
Go back.
पावर का तो नहीं ढूंढना ऑफ का ही है ये थी ना साथ में मिली है छोटी ये
Go back. Yeah. So there are different type of SSL certificates are available. I mean, we only talk about SSL, right? Even in SSL, there are different types. So there is a domain validation you need to do. So this is the simplest of the certificate what you can get. It's just a domain validation what you are doing. Here, because it's just a minimal check what you are doing, it's easy to give a certificate on domain validation. So not much of a thing. So the background for this is basically if you look at, there is a padlock. So examination is very minimal. So that's a domain validation. So it's not, it just shows the company name was available. So that's all. But you don't do any further check on it. So additional fraud check if you do it to do this for the high level domains. So where you need to see whether the domain exists, whether they are doing any business on it. Because this is a one certificate which helps you to reduce the phishing attacks. A lot of people, yeah please.
EV and OD.
Yes.
So every time needs to get the different type of certificates.
See the when we do an audit, the audit criteria is different. I will come to that point. The different criteria are there. So there is a one criteria for certification authorities alone. Similarly, SSL certificate there is a separate criteria. Many things may be overlapping, but the auditing criteria are different. So as an auditor, you need to choose those criteria and audit it. That's why it will be different. But if you are doing all of them together, it can be covered in one shot. It's not that you need to do a separate audit for it. It can be covered also. Yeah. So I will show you. I think my next speaker also talk about the different the scoping part of it. Because an auditor, you need to scope it properly because you're going to form an opinion on it. So you need to scope it. There we need to tell that what is covered, what is not covered.
And it's controlled by CCA or the international authority?
It's an international authority. So basically the reports will go to them.
The role of the CCA in this?
Oh.
We have given you certain requirements to be complied with, and then the checklist to which auditors audit you. Now the requirement reflects. There is one set of standard we have made. Now we will be taking this as a standard. This web trust will be the standard. So you need to comply to that, and our auditor will be auditing you with respect to that. If not compliant, you will not be banned. You will not be licensed for it. So this becomes your reference standard.
So there is another one, organizational validation. So there was a domain validation. Here we do organizational validation, whether organization exists or no. Though it's not only name, the domain, you need to check whether the public database, whether the MCA portal or different portals to see whether they are doing a transaction or not. Yes, they are doing a transaction also, because many a times what happens, these phishing sites, they register domain and then try to send a phishing mails from them, or even the site link also. So this is an additional thing on top of a SSL only, so which we'll be doing as a domain validation. Next. CMA also additionally method to ensure the information interested in certificate is accurate. So all those things can be checked. So these are the reason why this domain validation has come. It will contain company name and a domain name which certificate issued for. So that's what the domain validation will come, the organizational validation. Then this is the extended validation, another one. This is a separate certificate where it's only used for entity to pass a strict authentication procedure. So any high value customers could be a Microsoft, Google and all. So because it's a high value, there is a good chance that somebody can force them. Right? So this is extended validation. There is strict validations are considered. So these checks are much more stringent than an OV certificate. It is not only you just look at, because there may be an international player also coming in for getting a certificate. So you may have to verify multiple domains for that.
I think it's required for payment gateway.
Payment gateways and all. Yes. So that's the reason. It's an extended validation. You have an additional check done on it. So this is the additional criteria what will be used for it. This basically twofold. Please. Identify the legal entity that contract the website and enable encrypted communication with the website. These are the two strict criteria which we look for and audit based on that. Secondary purpose for the same is to help establish legitimate business climate to operate a website. So basically you are saying that it's validated. You can see like what you have a trusted the gateways and all what we say. This is basically comes under that. We are basically, I mean, what you see here is all everything is talking about the trust base. And distribute executable codes can be done through this thing. Please. So again, why this has come is basically internet growth has come, emphasized importance of a strong authentication, identifying website, domain owner, online service and a software code. So these are the 4 areas which we look into and then see how extended validation can be given to them.
My technical question.
Yeah.
Not related to this. If suppose I'm implementing the SSL certificate in my website, then the more page, I have 100 pages on the websites and the customer open more than one pages. So every time check the CRL and ICSP, OCSP, sorry.
No, I mean it's basically coming from that domain only, right? So it's coming from that log only, not every time. You don't need to.
It's the first time.
First time.
It's a create session.
Yeah, it's a session based. If it is coming from a different session, it will.
Your SSL create the session.
Please go next. Okay. So here the identify the remote computers. Here when you are doing I'm just picking some points which are important in the extended validation. So if the certificate is coming from a remote system, then you check for the MAC address, IP address, all those things. So those are the extended validations what will be put in the EV certificate. Certificate intended to ensure identify the software publisher and the integrity of the software codes. So these are all the part of a EV certification. So these are the few points. Anyway, we have a big list of. No, not client computer. Then another type of a certificate what you get is a code signing certificate. This is for the publishing some of the articles. Somebody, I mean, a lot of people are doing. Yes. Libraries and all. So that also can be signed. So that's a code signing certificates what you get. So you have a separate certificate also can get from Web Trust for this. The process employs use of cryptographic and hash validate. Yes.
Because actually our
See, anyway, most of the industry standard has become a Windows 10. So XPs and 7, 8 and are gone. Yeah, so 10 only is what you are looking for. The code signatures are created basically, the subscriber may consider valid for the period of 39. See, this is an extended time. So around 3 years, 3 months, what you can get a code signed certificate. But if you want to extend that, beyond that, say for example 11 years or something, so they said around 135 months, then it has to be time stamped. So time stamping plays a major role here. So when it was signed and how it is. So the time working together. So there are the two things. How you can do that is basically signing service method is where you can get 3 years, 3 months, and then when you timestamp it, so you will get a extended time. So it will go up to 11 years, 3 months timestamping. So there is some small changes required. How do we do a timestamping and also currently we are using the NPL based timing. So that is also considered fine, but as long as it meets the criteria of timestamping, what is mentioned in a web address. Next. So this is another one, verified mark certificate, digital certificate issued to certificate authority, verify logo, ownership, all those things. Okay, the logo must be registered trademark before VMC. The assurance engagement must be based on verified mark certificate requirements. Again, there is a criteria they are given. So again, there are 4 principles for VMC. So we need to audit against that 4 principles. We can move on. Yeah. So now next comes as a CA. Now how do we implement this? That's the biggest question everybody is asking, saying that no, okay, we want to go for web trust, but how do we implement it? So what we have done is basically we have taken a reference of these are the different standards what WebTrust talks about. So there are the previous speaker also talked about the similar standards. The same thing we have considered. So based on this, because see now in case of CCA, the CA implementation, there are guidelines given in CCA site. Say how should be the site, what should be the method and all. But in WebTrust, we don't find any that kind of a guidelines. So how do we derive a guideline? So what we have done is, as an auditor, we need to understand what is asked in the guidelines or in the requirement. Based on that, we said, okay, these are all the component what it should be there. Okay, so please. So now implementations are the 3 type. They are specifying. One is a bridge type, which currently CCA is working in this mode. CCA is a bridge CA, and every CA is connected to bridge CA. So this is how we are working. This is a bridge mode. This is the standard implementation where root CA is there, and then you have a sub CAs who can provide a certificate. So they issue a certificates. Now sub CA can be your own or it can be somebody else also. It need not be your own sub CA. You can even outsource it. Third party can be a sub CA. That's what the WebTrust talks about. So there are different countries, they go and put somebody else and they say this is a sub CA of mine. That's what it's happening. This is a third one is a cross certification. This is what we talk about. The root CA certifies the root CA 2 and root CA 2 certifies 3 or 3 some. So there is basically a cross certification that is happening. So WebTrust even talks about cross certification. It's not that only the standard or the bridge CA, but you can also have a cross certification. So it addresses all the requirement what is required. Now the component, I mean what should be in our CA component? So that's what we are trying to get from a criteria what is mentioned, and then we derive one by one. So what they say is systems are segmented into a network based and they're functional. So that means there should be a segmentation between the components, whatever you have. Next one. It also says it should be communication, there should be protected between systems like a secure zone and highly secure zone. So there should be a zoning between them, right? Then it says local network component should have a firewall router. So that means we will have a firewall routers. So when the auditing criteria is given like this, then we should have a firewall criteria also. That's what we derive, saying that there should be a firewall and routers also. This next one. And this is another one. The root CA systems are located in highly secured zone and in offline state or air gapped form. So that means your root CA should be offline or air gapped. It should not be connected to any other network. So that's a requirement what they are saying. Then they also say the key should be generated in HSMs. What is the HSM type? FIPS again 142. So which we are already doing it. Okay. Then next one, it also talks about yeah. So you should generate a CRLs on a regular interval. So there should be a component of generating a CRL. Then they say the parent CA makes a sub CA cross certified status information. That means the parent CA is supposed to deliver, give a CRLs on behalf of their sub CAs also. That also should be there in your system. Then they say that time stamping is required, so you should have a time stamping component also in your system. Okay, next.
Time stamping configured IST or different time zone?
Different time zone. You can put your, even if it is international, then you should plus 5.3 that you can put. So that's not a major thing. As long as you have a timestamp, you can say it's a global or this thing, you can put it.
Actually, if you go, as I was about to say, if you go by our requirement of CCA, all CAs should start giving time stamping services. I am given to understand everybody is not doing, and we are going to make it mandatory. Next audit onwards, we will be looking at the time stamping services as well. Because you are supposed to do these services as well. E-sign people are using the services that is only for signing the e-transaction part of it, not providing the time stamping services per se. So we will be looking at time stamping, which is already mandated to all of you, and you have to implement it. Time stamping services. So whosoever has not implemented, please start working on it. And second part is cross certification. CCA is now going for cross certification. There is a enablement in the IT Act. So we are trying to explore a possibility of convening a meeting under the G20 forum. All the member countries will be given a chance, and we are trying to work out a common platform framework which will be accepted by other countries. So this cross certification is also is coming very soon, and try to work on those requirements as well.
So then there is one more criteria says you should physical certification. I mean physical place should be Faraday cage. That means you should have a cage. So based on all these, we have said okay, this should be the criteria. You should have the cage, which we are already doing as per the CCA guidelines. We have a cage. So additional implementation requirements. So we are working in a caged environment. That's fine. Next. So then if you look at the implementation, root CA, then you have a sub CA. So the current CCA guidelines also talks about generating a sub CA. They issue only one root CA OV for each organization. You need to create a sub CAs and sign a sub CAs based on that. Then coming to a root SSL part, so again it will follow the same root SSL and a sub SSL. So you will sign only based on sub SSL, sub CA SSL. So there is a possible, because they say it should be offline, you can combine both the CAs. You can make it as a single component which is offline anyway. And you can only use a sub CS to sign all your CAs. So this is a component what we are considering. So this is the same thing what you can also see from a sample reporting format what published by WebTrust. So you can see here that is a subject which is a CA, which is root CA, and who has issued that? This is root CA himself has issued. So that's how that CA is working. And coming to the bottom to their sub CAs, who has issued the certificate for sub CA is a root CA. The next one. So this is how they are saying. So that means that's a structure we need to follow. Now putting all these requirements what we have seen in the guideline, so this is the component what it can come. So you have a different zones. You have a app zone, ZMZ, and a core zone, and you have this component is your offline root CA. The rest all the things are a sub CS which will issue a certificate for the public.
So this architecture review will become a part of this. Okay.
Correct.
What I have been talking. This is also subject to the audit for all the CAs. How you architect your infrastructure.
So there is a configuration they're talking about, even the checklist, there is a one particular clause, 6 point somewhere. They talk about your configuration need to be defined. What is the configuration you have? Currently we don't look at the configuration. We say it has to be HA mode, but nowhere we audit it. But the configuration part, when we look at, we need to detail out what is the configuration you have. Whether it's an HA mode or a single failure mode, what is that? So we will look into that. So that's a detailed auditing what will happen. So our other speaker will show you some sample how it has to be captured, because opinion need to be formed based on that. Yeah, please. Okay, now the next question comes, how do we get empanelment? So yes, digital has become an empaneled auditor. How it has become, or what is the empanelment route we have taken, or how easy or how difficult it is? So if you ask me whether it is easy or tough, I will say it is not easy. But is it so tough? No, it is not that tough also. The why it is not so easy, because it is, if you look at December 5th, I took the web trust sites, international, wherever the auditing firms are there. There are 18 auditors are there. Yeah, please, next one. Digital is one of them. There are 18 auditors. That means entire world you are covering only with 18 auditors. So it is not easy to get into that 18 auditor list, but it is not difficult also. I will say you how we went through, maybe the process I will explain, how we went through. Probably somebody else will come at later stage. So they asked us, when we had almost, I should say thank you to CCA team, CCA and his team, to pushing us to get into web trust. So initially we were also not thought about web trust. Especially Banati sir, in one of the meetings said, no, you have to become a web trust. So we said, yeah, let's start with. So we had almost 3-4 months continuous discussion and communication with the web trust authorities. And they asked couple of things. So one of that, they asked how long you are in the auditing field. So we gave our credentials saying that we are there past 18 years we are in the same field. It's not that anything else we are doing, it's only bread and butter is auditing. So then they asked, do you have any process? We said we ourselves are ISO 27000 approved, and we have a process of 9000. So that's also, we shared all the details to them. So that's how it went. Then they asked, do you have a quality checking, quality reporting format? Then they asked about project management, do you do it? Because whenever it comes, you need to, they'll go with the standard, international standard of project management, quality management and all. So then they asked about financial auditing exposure. Because the CPA Canada is basically a chartered account, they expect a chartered account to be there. Because the fraudulent activity is mostly related to your financial part. So do you have a financial exposure? So we gave our financial exposure where we have done some audits on financial part and all. So then they asked about what are the certification, authorities you audited. So we gave a list of CCA audits what we have done. Then exposure on the security audits. So security audit, VAPT, mobile, then the forensic, because again any the fraud happening, you should be able to understand fraudulent angle also. So they asked about do we have a forensic audit exposure. Application source code review, because sometimes you may have to look at the source code to find out, because the code review and they are doing. Anti-phishing, because there is one criteria, they said the CS should put on their website to inform the anti-phishing or the phishing the vendors, to inform them if they found any issues. So that anti-phishing scan have you done. The load testing, because there is a lot of certificate can come. So do you have a load balancer, the requirement of a load balancer. So do you test that load? So that they expect that auditor should know all the entire thing. So this is how we went through. So these are the questions they asked. And then next we also gave a kind of empanelments what we have. So then after the entire scrutiny, they allowed us to become a web trust. So this took some time. It's not that difficult, but it's not easy also. That's what I could say here. So now we come to a next part. Yeah, please.
Now we are looking at these certificates. As per the individual certificates and system certificates, there aren't any applications for it.
System related means?
System certificate and individual certificates.
CSC already talked about. I mean, the CA certificate.
No, CA certificate is
Yeah.
right. Actual individual certificates and certificates used in the system certificate. For that,
See the CA, what we say is trusted. They give a seal for CA also. CA gives a DSC as well as a ESAT, both the service system. That's what you are asking.
no, I'm saying when somebody is taking a SSL certificate,
Right.
then the web trust is helping the way you have explained.
Correct.
I'm saying an individual takes a certificate or a certificate is issued for a system, physical system.
Correct.
In that context, aren't there any
There
applications
is
for
nothing, as of now, we are not seeing that, but it might come.
Okay.
The things are under discussion. Right now, it's not there.
Directly web trust for CA is already there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. CA is giving individuals anyway. So when you talk about probably the IoTs and all, probably that will come. Currently, it has not come here. In the web trust.
Devices.
Device certificate. Now this is the thing what we did an analysis before we jumped into any audit of a CA, because we need to know what currently available in our baseline requirement, like a CCA checklist what we have. There are baseline requirements already taken. So what is the additional requirement that the web trust is looking for, and partly covered, partly not covered. In the same checklist there are partly covered, partly not covered. So that also we have taken, and then some updates required. So that also we have listed, and then I'm just going through that. Probably this will help you to see where we stand as of now. It's not difficult, that's what we can assure you that. So please. So baseline requirements are already taken care, the principle for baseline. So then there is the network certificate they talk about, so network security. The principles are developed basically keeping a relying party in mind. So that's what they are defined. So most of the things are non-technical nature. It's not technically you need to go, but non-technically you need to look into. Okay, the certification authority principles are clear business practice disclosure, certification authority, then disclosure of business key life cycle management criteria, the CA environment control practices, all these things are covered. Again, in their policy, CP and the CPS, they're asking whether you have disclosed it. Next. This is the second principle where they're talking about signing services. There are a few signing services which we need to look at. Please. Integrity of the key certificate management and subscriber information, how do you protect them? Next. Subordinate CA, if you are engaged, then how do you use the subordinate CA, and cross certificates, how do you provide? The third principle is about the environmental control, which most of them we are already covered. Certification authority maintains effective control to provide the regional assistance for that. Logical physical access, which we have covered. Continuity of a key certificate management and its how it is managed, maintained. Development, maintenance, operation of properly authorized, promoted, maintained CA system and its integrity. These are the three. I mean, when you look at this is the broadly they have categorized, but there are some checklists they have given in that. Go to the next one. When you come to extended certificates, EV certificates, principle 1 and 2 remains the same. Third principle, there is some differences, what you will see. There are some checklists related to that. Again, the text if you see, there is no difference here. Logical, physical access, the continuity of a key certificate system development maintenance. They talk about the same, but there are some additional guidelines given there. Go to next one. Yeah, when you come to verified mark certificates, there are 4 principles they are talking. Again, the first 3 are almost similar. It's basically business practice. It's the CPS and the CP again. Service integrity, environmental control. Third one, they talk about the network certification. The network criteria for certificate requirement. So these are the 4 principles. They have a little bit difference. Go to next one, please. Yeah, so these are some additional requirements. I've taken some samples. So cross certification and the meeting browser forum requirement. This is the one which is additionally coming as a requirement. Cross certification, please go back. CA subject provided that the CA arrangements are accepted, established in trust relations. Basically, you have a cross certification between different CAs. So that also you can consider. That's what they are saying. So how it has to be done and all, there is a detailed checklist they have given. So this is one of the criteria they are talking about for cross certification. So this is additional, which currently we don't practice it. That's what we consider as an additional requirement which is coming up. Yeah, here there is some document we have prepared. What are the differences we are seeing or the additional things what is required in the thing. Please check that link. Now click that link. Yeah. So what we have done, we have made a detailed analysis of the current requirements. We have gone clause by clause. We also said what is the web rest or the browser forum, and we said what is the type of requirement. It's a kind of an installation they are saying. Some places they are talking about the data center selection and security. They say it should be tier 4 data center minimum. That's a thing. And if you talk about network access control, then access diagnostic ports are to be controlled. So currently we don't have an auditing point for that. So we say you have to have a hardening document, but in the hardening document, what should be there? Your port should be controlled. So we don't mention anywhere. I mean, we don't check that point. There's a possibility that somebody has missed that. So that's what is the similar automatic termination of identification used to authenticate connection specific location to a portable equipment. Portable equipment here is basically VMs within the hypervisor. So whether you have a proper diagram of what connects to where. So that's what process wise you need to improve on. Similarly, when you go to here, yeah. So when we generate a the key, you do a key ceremony, right? When you do a key is generated, you do a key ceremony. In the key ceremony, what exactly need to be checked is not mentioned anywhere. In our web an audit list, we don't have. Whereas if you really look at here, key generation, you need to first check whether the hardware is fine, your security features, because there are so many people are assembling in the area, right? So in that case, whether there is a security or the emergency exits are first checked or no. So that's also they have defined here. So what should be the process of key generation? They have mentioned it in a detailed way. So those things need to be incorporated in our checklist, so that this will become an additional requirement for us. The process wise, it has to be changed. Similarly, I mean, there are so many, around 20-25 pages are there. I'm not going to run the entire thing, but this will be available later in our audit checklist, so that it will be checked. I mean, but what we have done is basically we have seen whether it's a software update, installation requirement, or a process change, or a process upgradation. Basically, more than your change, you can say there should be an upgrade to a process document. So we have listed all of them. So this comes from both WebTrust as well as Browser Forum. Both the points we have taken and we have made a list of it. So this will be incorporated in our upcoming list, so that it will be useful for us to move forward to meet the WebTrust criteria. You can close it and let the PPT. And from there, probably I will pick some of them which are important that we can look into. So this is the one criteria what I was talking about. Instruction to be published on a website for anti-malware organization. So this is the requirement they say, where you need to, CA provides instruction to a website to anti-malware organization, subscriber, relying party, anyone. If they find any issues, please report it to me. And I need to take care within 96 hours. That's what they're supposed to disclose. Right? So these are the things which they have mentioned, so which we need to incorporate in our areas. So next one. Yeah, please. So again, code signing certificates not exceeding 39 months, or by with the time stamping exceeding to, I mean, going to 139 months. These are the newer things which need to be additionally we need to incorporate when we go for time stamping and a code signing. So the actually extended validation, what you can call about.
Actually, at present, more than 36 months CC is not allowed.
That is, yes.
Anyway,
Or yeah, but now this one you can extend it to 139 months, 135 months with the time stamping. So that's what they allow. Then the high risk application maintain integrated database for previously revoked certificates. See, there is a possibility that there is a revoked certificate coming, somebody is applying. So you need to maintain a database of checking whether this certificate was revoked earlier. So we only publish a CRLs, but we need to do some analysis on the revoked certificate. If somebody applies later, we need to check and then keep it permanently shut. So the CA maintains a control to provide reasonable assurance that internal database of all the previously revoked certificates are checked. So this is the another one. I mean, this is a small process change. It's not that big process. We can't do and all. It's not that way. It is doable. Next one. Next one. Next one. This is a baseline requirement. Yeah, please. Next one. Yeah, you just hold on. So this is where we talked about. If somebody reports you there is a malware or something, there is a guideline says that within 72 hours you need to act upon. So these kind of the details are more we need to put in our process, so that similarly, not only here, there are a few more will come across. When you find a critical vulnerability in your VAPT, it should be addressed within 96 hours. So those are the guidelines which they are saying, which we need to incorporate, and then we should be able to match. Go to next one. In CCA guidelines, we don't delegate any of the trusted roles, whereas in web trust they allow delegating it to third party. But only thing is you need to have a control over them. So this is a small change. I mean, we can stay with the current CCA guidelines where they should be employee of the organization only to assign a trust role, or as per this you can even delegate it. So that call we can take. I mean, CCA can make a guideline saying that who should be a part of a trusted role. Next one. Yeah, this is the time stamping what they're talking about. Next one. Yeah, root CA we talked about. Yeah, so this is the criteria again they talk about. Root CA cannot be used for signing a certificate. So in current some of the CAs we see the root CAs are being used. So but this is the criteria they say you should have a root CA and a sub CA. So you should have that the current checklist talks about making a sub CA provision. So now when you are going for a web trust, you need to have a sub CA only. Root CA cannot be used. It will be mostly offline or air gap network. That's what they are talking about. Yeah, when you say the time stamping service, again it has to have a FIPS compliant HSM. Time stamping authority. These are the guidelines what I talked about. It should be, and mostly I think you had asked about time source, right? It should be UTC. Yeah. Right. Same thing.
ये तो वेब सर्विस मिलता है ना,
मिलता है सर।
वेब सर्विस में
नंबर 2 पे जो फिफ्थ है, this common criteria or higher.
Or है।
So fifth or common criteria, fifth and common criteria.
No, or sir, or. Next one. Again, in the CPS, we may have to make a change when you go for EV, all those things. Currently, we don't have, so we don't have a checklist also that need to be done.
I think that or
For the other one, not something. Yeah. Yeah, this is the one additional thing what we need to go look at is see currently most of the CAs we have a insurance coverage, but what they expect is your insurance coverage should have professional liability and errors and omission. So that to be, clause is not there anywhere, so that we need to incorporate. So when you take insurance, that need to be considered. They provide, because they have taken from us also. As an auditor, we need to provide that insurance. Yeah. So they provide. Guidelines for publishing CA, again the instruction to provide subscriber, reliant party, application software vendor and other third parties for reporting any complaint or suspected. It's basically a grievance kind of a thing. You need to set up a grievance and helpline to address it. So this is another one where international the subscriber or the user coming into asking for a certificate. So how do we verify them? What all the things to be verified is what is being given here. So you need to check international organization entity created under what charter, treaty, all those things, and then verify it. Then only you give a certificate to them. This is another one. I mean, any SSL certificates, CRLs, if you are publishing, it should be published within 3 seconds. Currently, we have a 10-second timeline. It should be reduced to 3-second timeline. So that's what they expected. Right. This is another one. The small corrections here is basically self-assessment at least once in 3 months. The self-assessment about the certificates what we issued, 3% of that should be subjected to self-assessment of EV certificates. See whether any of those have been violated or anything. So basically to check the forensic part of it, that's what they're looking for. So again, VMC related, 3 minutes. This part, limitation of liability need to be put, this particular clause has to come in our CPS, limitation of liability. We have something, but this particular line has to come there. This is what they expect in the limitation of liabilities. Yes. CA maintains a control to provide reason assurance is the VMC government entities if you are providing what should be followed. Similarly, for one more guidelines is there for private entities. Please go to next one. Non-commercial. So these are the 2 things they've added for VMCs. This is about subordinate CA. This is maintains basically, I mean, private key has been unauthorized person. I mean, currently who can report any issues? It's only the subscriber who can do. But now when you incorporate subordinate CA also should be able to do that. Revocation also can come from. Then operational excellence verification, CA maintains control to provide reasonable assurance that verified applicants or affiliated parties, subordinate company, operational excellence. These are the kind of operational excellencies what they are looking for. Third party delegation again. This, pardon? One slide back. Right. So that's what I said. It's a billing part, what they look for. Financial part also we need to look at. Let's go to the next one. So this is the one which I was talking about. Critical vulnerability, if you find in your system, it has to be addressed within 96 hours. So there's such a, we have a guidelines, but there is no timeline fixed. But this they expect it should be finished within that 96 hours. So then there is one more key generation script. What need to be covered in that? So they talk about just next slide also, please. Yeah. So they talk about physical security requirements for the ceremony. They talk about operational system installation. Check whether the key generations are done. These are backed up. Your verification, hardware preparation. What you are using as hardware. First, you check whether the systems are being checked or not. Sign off of the log. Any deviation you have taken, all those things has to come. So currently we do a video recording, it says we have done a clear ceremony, but these all details need to be checked in there. So that's a process wise we need to do that. Next one. Yeah, this is within the CA rule, whatever passwords we keep. So normally we follow password policies. So these are 8 characters. So they expect 12 character passwords. And also not more than 4 attempts, failed attempts, somewhere it should be there. Yeah. And this previous 4 passwords. We should not use it. So that's what they are talking about. Yeah. And system account review for 3 months. So every 3 months it should be reviewed. Next one. Delegation roles, talked about already. Please next. Yeah, log review has to be done within 31 days. So many a times we say we do a log review, but there is no time given. They say it should be done within 31 days. So month means you need to define a date when you are doing it. So that's the expectation. And subordinate CA revocation, it has to happen within 7 days. So that's a time they have given. And vulnerability assessment, this we don't have a criteria as of now. Yearly once we do it. But vulnerability has to be checked every 3 months. Penetration test can be done once in a year. So that's the timeline they say. So timeline this is one. And currently this is an update what we need in our CPS document, existing CPS document, because we follow 2560, RFC 2560. But that is already obsolete. So we need to change it to 6960. So this is the time when you see this is already obsolete. What are these changes? Not much, sir. So current CA software we checked, they are already following this. So maybe in a CPS document level we have to change. The next one. That's all. I think these are the things what we cover. So my colleague will talk about auditing experience when we audited one of the CA. So how we maybe will cover about the reporting structure. What is the audit we do? How we do audit? So that we will also talk about. With this we can see that it is not difficult. It's not difficult to meet the web trust because already, see, the days are gone when there was no checklist as such, but now fortunately CCA has given us a checklist where baseline requirements already taken care. It's only small modification or fine tuning of our process, we should be able to meet the web trust requirement. And hardware wise there is a small change which we have to do it, and then with that we should be able to go for a web trust certification. Any questions?